Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something incredible. One of history's most feared and, most unlikely combat units.
Nachthexen. That's what German soldiers called them. It literally means night witches. And believe me, that name wasn't a compliment. It was born out of pure, absolute terror.
So, who exactly were these women? And how in the world did a group of pilots, flying what were basically outdated crop dusters, become this legendary force in World War II? Okay, let's get right into it.
All right, so our story kicks off in 1941. And for the Soviet Union, this was probably the darkest moment of the entire war. I mean, the situation was beyond desperate. So in June of 41, Operation Barbarossa just completely unleashes this devastating German invasion. We're talking about a blitzkrieg on a scale that's just hard to even imagine. The Red Army was getting hammered, and the whole Soviet state was teetering on the brink of collapse. This was an existential threat, which meant one thing: they needed everybody for the war effort. And this is where things get really, really interesting. You see, unlike the Western allies who generally kept women in support roles, as medics, administrators, the Soviet Union did something totally different. Now, was it because of their state-promoted ideology of equality or just pure desperate necessity? Probably a bit of both. But either way, they did something unprecedented. They put women right on the front lines. Snipers, tank crews, and yes, pilots.
And it's exactly this crisis that creates an opening, an opportunity for a group of unbelievably determined women and their visionary leader.
Okay, so enter Marina Ryskova. You have to understand, she was a huge deal back then. A celebrated aviator, a hero of the Soviet Union. Kind of like an Amelia Earhart figure. And she used her influence to go straight to Stalin himself. Her argument was simple. We have all these skilled women pilots, they're a resource we're not using. Now, of course, there was a ton of skepticism from the male commanders, but between the desperate need for pilots and Ryskova just refusing to take no for an answer, she won.
And just like that, the order comes down on October 8, 1941. And boy, did things move fast. Thousands of women, many who already had training from civilian aviation clubs, just flooded in to volunteer. They were put through this incredibly accelerated, super rigorous training, and by 1942, the 588th Night Bomber Regiment was born. They were ready to fight.
But the aircraft they were given to fly, well, let's just say it wasn't exactly a cutting-edge war machine. To be honest, it was pretty much a flying coffin.
So this is what they got. The Polikarpov Po-2. I mean, look at it! It's a biplane from the 1920s. It was originally a crop duster. It's made of wood and canvas. The cockpit is wide open, completely unarmored. They had no defensive guns, just maybe a pistol for the crew. And they had to fly this thing in the brutal Russian winter. By any standard, this plane was a relic.
So let's just put this into perspective. You've got the Po-2, made of wood and fabric, with a top speed of maybe 150 kilometers per hour. And it's going up against German fighters made of armored metal that could fly more than 3 times as fast, bristling with cannons and machine guns. The contrast is it's staggering. It's like sending a paper airplane into a dogfight.
But here's the crazy part, and this is absolutely crucial. The Po-2's maximum speed was actually slower than the stall speed of a lot of the German fighters. What does that mean? It means if a German pilot slowed down enough to try and shoot them, their own plane would risk falling out of the sky. And this one little fact, this massive weakness, was about to become their secret weapon.
Okay, so this is where we get to the most brilliant part of the whole story. This is how they turned every single one of those disadvantages into a weapon.
Think about it. That slow speed, it made them an incredibly difficult target for fast-moving fighters. That wooden canvas frame, it gave them a tiny radar signature, making them practically invisible. And that little engine, it was quiet enough that they could get dangerously close to a target before anyone knew they were there. They literally weaponized the plane's flaws.
And they developed this signature tactic called the carousel. Here's how it worked. They'd fly in sequence. The first plane might drop flares to light everything up. Then the next pilot would do something absolutely terrifying. She'd cut her engine completely and just glide silently over the target, drop the bombs, then fire the engine back up and get out of there. And another one would be right behind her. They kept this up for hours, all night long.
And that's how they got the name. The first thing German soldiers would hear wasn't an engine. It was this soft whooshing sound from the wind going over the wings of the gliding plane. They said it sounded like a witch's broomstick. That eerie sound right before the bombs hit. I mean, you can just imagine the psychological effect.
So what was the result of all this? The impact of these incredibly brave and clever tactics? Well, it was huge, and it went way beyond just physical damage.
Let's just look at the numbers. By the time the war ended, they had flown more than 23,000 combat sorties. 23,000! Sometimes a single crew would fly 8, 9, maybe even 10 missions in a single night.
And in all those missions, they dropped something like 3,000 tons of bombs. They weren't just nuisance raids, they were precision harassment attacks, hitting supply lines, troop encampments, basically making life a living hell for the enemy. And for their incredible bravery, a staggering 23 members of the regiment were awarded the title Hero of the Soviet Union. Now that's the highest honor the nation could give. Just incredible.
But really, their biggest weapon was psychological warfare. They were relentless. They caused chronic sleep deprivation. They created this constant nagging fear that an attack could come silently out of the dark at any moment. It completely shattered German morale to the point that the German High Command actually started offering the Iron Cross, a major award, to any pilot who could manage to shoot down a witch.
So in the end, their legacy is it's monumental. They completely shattered the idea that women weren't suited for combat. They proved that ingenuity, resilience, and just sheer courage have nothing to do with gender. They became this incredibly powerful and enduring symbol of heroism.
And it all kind of leaves you with this one big question, right? When is an old, obsolete tool the absolute perfect weapon for the job? The story of the Night Witches is this amazing lesson that sometimes the most effective solutions come from the most unexpected places, and that human ingenuity can triumph over even the most advanced technology.